Witness what happens when 5 friends pick the wrong lakefront cabin for an unforgettable vacation in The Legend of Lake Hollow. Currently streaming on Amazon Prime, it was directed by Chris Hollow, that's without the W. He has done some short films in the past, and written by Jerry Robbins. Check out the respective IMDb pages for the full list of their work, and it stars James David West and Kyle Rankin as Mark and Dan Wallace. And they are on two sides of the same coin. One decides to purge some goddamn land for energy sources, and the other is an environmentalist guy, so to speak. I wonder if that's going to play into the whole story. And there are other people in this, because if you have 5 friends, you can't go with 2. You can't go with 2 brothers, because that doesn't work for me, brother. So anyway, to be fair, we do have other people. We have Carson Hayes, played by Brendan Ball, despite the fact that he is Shade, but then again, I can identify, I kid of course. And you have Shay, played by Liz Atwater, and you have Lori Peters, played by Meg Barlow. My sweet Barlow, my sweet Barlow, my sweet Barlow. And if you have seen my Texas Chainsaw Massacre Netflix review, you will understand that reference. So yeah, 5 friends decide to pick a remote lakeside cabin that, they don't really know anything about, and it also has a couple remote hotspots where they can get some cell service, but otherwise, not really all that much. There are some cameras set up to capture either hunters or wild animals or whatever in the goddamn woods. I wonder if that's going to factor into what's going on with this creepy atmospheric setting. Where, yeah, 5 friends find out that they really should have done a little bit of studying on this property, because now they must fight for their lives against a force that they didn't expect to deal with this idyllic vacation area. So, okay, it's a typical setting. You have 5 friends, you have a little bit of backstory, you have people making dumb decisions, and you have a supernatural presence. So, yeah, that's your lot right there. I will say one positive, the cinematography actually is pretty good. You can tell that they actually put some effort into the camera work, unlike some, low budget, almost bargain basement horror movies that you will find on Tubi, where it looks like they just took a camcorder from the 1980s and shot stuff. So good on there. And they do try for a nice, neat little setup, and we do get introduced to the characters and a lot of stuff thrown at us in the very beginning. And the first little bit is actually all right. The problem is this is a short film concept stretched out to a full-length feature without enough meat on the goddamn bone. Ironic, once you find out what is actually causing all this. What's causing all this? Woo! The cast tries. The movie isn't good. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just not. The idea is there. The idea has also been done before. And again, decently shot. Not all that great. And also the decisions made by some of these characters, it's kind of silly. It also reminds me of one particular movie that I'm going to reference in the spoiler section. And if you have seen the movie and you watch the spoilers, you will understand what I'm saying. Let's just say I take care of the place while the is away. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of right there. For those that get it, they get it. And if they don't, then you haven't been spoiled on anything. Also, the conclusion is rather silly because, yeah, I don't really understand, why they thought the way this was set up was going to work, because it just plods along eventually, and it just ends up being typical. It's not the worst thing I've seen this year by a goddamn country mile, or 10 country miles, but, yeah, it is what it is. They try. There's a couple decent, ghost effects and everything, and a couple decent body horror effects. And they try to keep the mystery going, but the problem is there isn't all that much mystery to it. So yeah, I'm just going to get right into it. So it's on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out. And you know what? Let's support independent filmmakers and see if they can grow. I'm not saying that this movie was great. It wasn't. But I'm willing to give another chance to what the director, writer, and the cast end up doing in the future. So yeah, that being said, let's get into spoilers. Just warn you, cover my ass, spoilers. So, yeah, it's a Wendigo. It's a fucking Wendigo. And there are people in the lake that were trying to warn them because they were the bodies of, the spirits of dispatched victims. And there's a guy that, claims to be the caretaker. His name's Al Travis, not Al Davis, because this guy actually had good hair. His grandson Grady shows up. It turns out that the Wendigo, in case you don't know, a Wendigo it eats people and it assumes their identity and stuff like that. It's a Native American legend. It was done better in Antlers. And the movie I'm referring to from the MST3K days and even the Riff Track days, Manos, the Hands of Fate. In fact, that's actually what it reminds me of. Because your spirit's locked in there, and if you end up, if you end up staying at that property too long, you could end up becoming the caretaker and taking care of the place while the master is away. The master being the Wendigo. I don't understand why this character, Laurie, ended up being so egregiously horny all of a sudden. It was a bit of a character shift. I mean, being single is one thing, but I don't quite get it. And, yeah, there was one point where they're exploring in the woods and they find some bones. And this is after they find Grady. Also, their cars end up being put at the bottom of the lake off camera because they couldn't afford to do that. And that's fine. That's fine. It is what it is. How did they happen? I'm just going to assume that the Wendigo just, pushed them and they forgot to put the parking brake on and they sunk in Psycho style. So, yeah, there was one funny point where Laurie is making out with Grady, but Grady's sitting on the boat like he was before. And then Grady lets go of her and she hits the wall like this and then knocks herself out. Everybody basically ends up dying in hilarious ways. They can't get a hold of anybody as far as 911 goes. He can hear them. They can't hear him. It turns out that Mark actually does some, fracking, if you know what fracking is. And Dan is more the environmentalist type guy. And the police end up calling and saying, well, you know what? A lot of you are basically dead. A lot of you are going to be targeted. And you're all going to die. You're all going to die down here. And then at one point, Mark and Grady go across the lake to this Native American area. And one funny line, I don't know why it made me laugh, and make sure you don't shoot us on the way back. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. So, yeah, they go across the lake to the camp, but then it disappears. The Wendigo's basically playing tricks on them this whole goddamn time. There is a VHS tape collection. Yes, VHSs actually used to exist back in the day, kids. And it's a Wendigo. And these cameras were set up by Wendigo hunters. And it turns out that the person that owned the cabin, the wife ended up eating the guy. And she's a Wendigo. And she's basically been... She can't... These cameras were blessed by something, so the Wendigo can't take care of the cameras, but it can kill people. The lake people were trying to warn them that, hey, you should fucking leave here. You shouldn't have come here. And then Mark is all that's left. After Dan gets killed in a hilarious way by the Wendigo, Shave just being possessed and killing. That was actually an okay scene. And Mark ends up being killed and then made into the new caretaker. Then a new family arrives. Do not do The Legend of Lake Hollow 2 Electric. Why the hell are we doing this Wendigulu? Yeah, I'm sorry, F. Like, look, stuff happens, but it's not much. There's no meat really on these bones. Yeah, I didn't care. I'm sorry, F. It just wasn't very good. I wish nothing but the best for the filmmakers and the cast, though. Agree, disagree what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rentlin. I'll see you soon.